Hi, everybody. This is Jeffrey Grupp of Zenflower Radio. I'm just doing a broadcast here very early in January of 2012, recapping something I did long ago called Thoreauvian Self-Sufficiency. I think I did it it was April or May last year. The basic reason for doing the show is real simple, and I can sum it up as follows. Everybody, it seems, in general, thinks that there's something wrong with the world. All the the average person in the world populace, and everybody's got a different claim for what the solution is because they think they identify what the problem is. I wrote in my first book, I did the same thing in my first book, Corporatism. I said that the problem with the world citizens, the troublesome predicament they find themselves in, is because the control of resources and money is not in their hands. In other words, the populace of the world, they don't create their own resources. They don't, the goods that they need and use for everyday survival, shelter, food, clothing, and so forth, and things also like spirituality, the water, blah blah blah. These basic necessities are not created by them. They're created by others, and we humans of the world have to purchase them from other people for very low amounts of money, but where virtually all the profit goes to an extremely tiny few called the corporatists. These are just the heads of the monopolistic mega corporations around the world. Anything from big media corporations to food, Monsanto, and so forth. So I started writing that book in 2003. It was published in 2007, and I've been thinking about it ever since, the last 5 years, ever since it was published. And I still think that is, everybody's got their idea on what the different problems are with the world. That's my position on what I think is the number one problem. And the best illustration of that is if you remove all of this that I just summed up. If you put all of the production of survival goods and survival issues back into the hands of the people, what you have is a society that looks essentially like the American Indians before white European invasion, which occurred from 1492 to it's still kind of going on today because Indians are still on the reservation. So I know that these dates are questionable and so forth, but let's just go with it for a moment. So to sum up, what happens is if you remove all of the abilities for people to create their own survival goods, the control of their lives is taken from the individuals and put into the hands of a very few who control this production and profit off of this production of all these survival goods. But if you put them back in the hands of the people, then you have something that looks like the American Indians. Okay, now a lot of people consider the American Indians low tech. They weren't necessarily low tech, but that's not the point really here, the level of technology. The point is where the production is coming from. Is it coming from self-sufficient individuals and small groups and populations, or is it coming from monopolistic control of all the production by a very small amount of people? Whenever you have a situation like this, where very small amounts of people control the production and survival goods, and essentially therefore control the behavior of people worldwide, it's always inevitable that tyranny and oppression, to various degrees, whether mild or severe, will emerge, which is exactly, of course, what we see today. So what I want to do with this show here in early January 2012 is to basically sum up what I call Thoreauvian self-sufficiency and play some excerpts from that show that I did a little under a year ago regarding this issue. Now, what Thoreauvian self-sufficiency is, in the most simple one-sentence definition I can give, it is just the idea where if humans, each individual human on planet Earth takes it upon themselves to find out what they like most, what they enjoy most, what their passion is, and pursue it as a in a situation where they create products based on this. If your favorite product is is books, then you start writing books. If your favorite product is crops, then you start a farm, etc. And you use this to start to create survival-oriented products, and where every person in the world does this, and we all buy from each other. And there's a lot of specific mechanics to it, but that's the one-sentence description of it. So as you can see, the problem, as I'm stating it, comes from people not controlling their resources they need for survival. So you just remove that issue and the solution is found. Removing the issue means, you have people controlling the products they need for survival. And that's what I call Thoreauvian self-sufficiency. So it doesn't have anything to do with the level of technology. It has to do with who controls technology. So any other solution that I've ever seen to how humans are going to gain freedom avoids this logic. Let me explain what I just meant by that sentence. It's the Animal Farm issue. Okay, George Orwell's book Animal Farm is kind of what I'm talking about a little bit here. In the Animal Farm, what you have is the pigs, which represent a certain business class, which becomes tyrannical, starts to control the production, therefore control the people, and ultimately leads to oppression. That's a repeating cycle worldwide, everywhere. So what happens in Animal Farm is everybody starts off equal and happy, and it's very egalitarian and so forth, but then eventually one subgroup in the group in question starts to take over the production in some way, and whether they do it intentionally or inadvertently, they become oppressors. Okay, so that's what people always talk about. There's solutions for the world. Why we've got poverty and war and corrupt government and disease and everything everywhere. Well, the reason that we do is because everybody's avoiding this Animal Farm issue, but Thoreauvian self-sufficiency specifically tackles it head on. Let me give you an example. I've got a book here right in front of me, Radical Ecology. It's The Search for a Livable World by Carolyn Merchant. She's a Berkeley professor. This is Routledge Press, and 1992. I'm on page 11. Here's what she says here. She's talking about deep ecology, and here's what she says. Deep ecology is another approach of how to solve all of our problems. Very big picture solution mechanism, just like Thoreauvian self-sufficiency is, or other issues. It's like what democracy is supposed to be, or communism. These are supposed to be big picture issues, how to solve our issues, and we're meaning that we figure out ways to live in harmony and peace and happiness and avoid this mess that we're in. So what she says here on this page is deep ecologists call for a total transformation in science and worldviews that will replace the mechanistic framework of domination with an ecological framework of interconnectedness and reciprocity. Okay, so good, so far so good. Spiritual ecologists see the need to infuse religions with new ecological ideas and revive older ways of revering nature. Social ecologists see a total transformation of political economy as the best approach. Now, your first reaction to reading that, nice passage, of course, but your first reaction to that is, who's going to enforce this? Who's going to create it? Who's going to write up the Constitution? And who's going to enforce it? Okay, because this is something that would have to be enforced. And the only answer to that is a big government, okay, with a big police force, big court system, and a whole lot of corruption right around the corner. See, so what happens is it's just a system that'll get us back into the same problems that we're in, which are specifically having a few people in charge of the pursuit of happiness, the economics, and the survival goods of all the rest. And it's just inevitable that corruption will set in. People, you don't think there's corruption? People act strange when there's money. involved. I mean, people all lie in unison. Lie, L-I-E, lie in unison. Like a university, for example, will have, they'll all the university administrators are real good at keeping real quiet on the specifics about money. I remember when I was at Western Michigan University getting my master's degree. The university, I remember my whole last year there getting my master's. The university, every day in the campus newspaper, I would see stories about how the university was crying that they're out of money, they don't know what to do, blah, blah, blah. They did this for a year, and then all of a sudden one day they came out with a story saying, we're going to build a new chemistry building. And I'm thinking, well, wait a minute, how does that juxtapose with everything you've been saying for the last year? $27 million chemistry building. And they just said, well, we don't know where the money's going to come from, but we're going to figure it out, we're going to build it. And they were going to have a big celebration. What a great big event this was. And I'm thinking, that's it right there. All these people at the university, there's obvious corruption involved right there. There's obvious lying and so forth in a situation like this. But everybody was real good at, all in unison, keeping real hush-hush on the secrets of, the mysteries of the money. And, also there's no money, and then there's a ton of money. And nobody, the media, the campus newspaper didn't investigate it to find out, what the shenanigans were. No, there wasn't a whistleblower administrator saying, hey, I just got to tell everybody this is just, here's what's really going on. None of it. Everybody just kept real quiet. And the students all, didn't complain, and that was the end of it. Now, this happens with city governments, public school systems, universities, the federal government. Families do this to each other. You have an inheritance, and then, a couple people hoard it and then keep real quiet to the rest. And people are good at putting out of their minds all this corruption and just living with it. It's just part of our human nature. So, I mean, I just take it as almost a law of human behavior amid civilization involves this. So it's just a matter of time before any system that is not, that is, based on where you have a few people in charge of the rest, will fall into incredible corruption to various levels, whether just standard corruption to something, the extreme of corruption, such as genocidal warfare. So creating a big mega system is the very problem. But yet every solution I ever see seems to involve creating such a huge mega system. That's what communism is. And people rallied behind that like you can't believe when that came out. It was the hope. Obama, it was like the fervor of behind Obama when he came into office. Both of those are perfect examples of how the mega system fails you. So what has to happen is all citizens of the world have to agree together. This would take years to set in, as I'm about to explain in the excerpts of this show I did almost a year ago. Everybody will have to agree to not participate in a mega system, but only to operate with what can be called individualistic economics, rather than mega system economics, which is what the world is in now. So anyway, let's go to some of these. Let's go to this show I did almost a year ago on 4/4/2010 on the Antimatter Radio Show, and you'll get the picture of what Thoreauvian self-sufficiency is all about and why it's so incredibly important. Okay, here you go.
For all the many reasons I listed in the last show, there's no way this can be done quickly. So all of you need to put in your mind a different mindset. This isn't going to get done by next week. This isn't going to get done by next year. Why don't we set this up for our kids? Let's do that. So I was talking to Ed Walker of Black Helicopter Radio today, my good friend, and we always chat during the day and so forth about, we come up with whole radio shows, ideas when we sit there and chat. But I was saying to him, I just want to cancel this show tonight on Thoreauvian Self-Sufficiency. And I said to him, it's just a bunch of lies. And there's no way we can gain our freedom. Humans are just too stupid, and all they want to do is fight with each other and not think and be lazy. And in a sense, that's true. And it's definitely the case that in our current mindset, we're not going anywhere. But on the other hand, I was reading through all these notes over the last 2 hours before the show here. I was up drinking tea with my wife and just glancing at my notes while we chatted. And this actually, I just can't believe actually how simple this solution, Thoreauvian self-sufficiency, is. Okay, anyways, if you didn't hear the first show, or you catch this in the future sometime and you didn't hear the first show, we went through painstaking 2-hour analysis of why there's only one way to defeat the New World Order. We call that Thoreauvian self-sufficiency. It is not anything like what Gandhi promoted, civil disobedience, or Martin Luther King. It's completely different. All right? It's very important for you to understand that. Okay? People were posting videos, or posting I made an announcement for this show, and people on YouTube were discussing it in terms of self-sufficiency, civil disobedience, and that's not it. Okay, and there's another thing you're going to learn here also. Self-sufficiency can't be what we think it is. I think and I'm guilty of making this mistake too. Okay, it can't be a one-guy thing. Like, okay, Bob down the street, he's got all the stuff he needs, and then here I am, I've got all the stuff I need, and we're both self-sufficient. Okay, we're going to attack that idea tonight. And we're going to come up with more something like, Bob has a lot of the things I need, and I get them from him. And I give a lot of the stuff he needs to him. We trade. Okay, there's our currency. We're going to get into more of that kind of an idea. So self-sufficiency is not an idea one person is self-sufficient, but rather one group, one neighborhood or small town or group of 30 people or something, or 50 people or 20 people is self-sufficient. There's reasons for that. The main one is that modern culture is never going to go for self-sufficiency. Okay, on the one hand, we want to present a solution, but we need to really present one that's real. What's a solution that, Joe Six-Pack with his hot dogs watching the NCAA game tonight that's on, what are the... I think I just started a chat session. Sorry, I'm so late getting started. Anyways, but I just got one going. So what are the chances that Joe Six-Pack can take part in Thoreauvian self-sufficiency? We need Joe Six-Pack, because that's average America. We need somehow to lure... How in the world do we lure them into this? No, this needs to be an attractive process where people hear about it and they say, my life, I kind of would like to do that. I mean, I still want to sit on the couch and drink my six-pack, but when I work, 8 hours a day, I'd rather do the Thoreauvian self-sufficiency technique rather than, $2 an hour McDonald's job. So that's what we're going for, okay? And that's why we need some time to get this set up. So, it has to be realistic, or else this show is just a bunch of ideas that are not related to reality. Okay, so yeah, there's the chat session. Sorry about that, everybody. A little bit behind and so forth tonight. I'm getting started. So now, like I was saying, it's surprising how easy. Now, I wrote we need to keep it simple though, and it needs to be easy. I mean, we need to keep the concepts of this solution called Thoreauvian self-sufficiency simple, and the number of steps it has needs to be simple. It needs to be just like you do 3 things. Now, in the last show, we kind of summed it up as, and sort of with one principle. I'm trying to be simple on purpose. What is Thoreauvian self-sufficiency? It's a system of economics. All of you right now live in a system of economics, a system of buying and selling. The system of economics you live in is called the New World Order. Okay? You're told it's called communism and democracy and all this, republic and so forth in your university classes, but what really governs every economic system in the world is economics called the New World Order, which is an economic system based on you not creating the products that you need to survive from day to day, where a monopolistic group instead creates them, creates poorer versions of the products, and sells them to you at an incredible profit. Okay, that is an economic system that the whole world is under. Okay, we need the opposite economic system. That's what Thoreauvian self-sufficiency is. So to define what it is, you need to go listen to that other 2-hour show. If somebody needs to write a book on this, take these ideas and write a book on it or something. I'm writing 3 books now, so I don't have time to, I don't think. But Thoreauvian self-sufficiency basically is a different kind of lifestyle based on the Plains Indians, modeling ourselves after the Plains Indians of the pre-wounded knee time, where buying and selling was done from individual to individual. Yeah, that's it. Okay, in the simplest possible terms. Now, see, in buying and selling now in the world is not done individual to individual. It's done corporation to individual, corporation to individual. Okay? Out of all your purchases you make in your life, astonishingly few are done directly from a producer of a good. Okay? I mean, somebody that is just another individual or a small group that you know in your proximity. No, it's always a humongous monopolistic entity that's far away and so forth. So that's a summary of the last show. Now, again, like I was just saying, we need to keep this all very, very simple. And you'll be surprised as we go through this. There's just a couple of key principles that hold it all together. Okay, so now the model I'm going to give won't be perfect. Did everybody hear that correctly? Please understand what I'm going to say tonight is an introduction to the topic that is not, and there'll be mistakes later on. If people start to analyze this model, people will find out Gruff made this mistake and we need to tweak it, it needs to be better. That's what I want to happen. Okay, obviously this is just me, one guy, trying to think how this would work. What if we had 100 people, really passionate antimatter radio listeners, tweaking this and working on it and trying to figure out how this really would work as we start to try to implement it over the next decade or two. That's what I want. And of course, the only way that that tweaking would happen is if we moved further and further on this introductory model I'm going to give. Okay, that's the way progress works. You find the old model doesn't work, it's insufficient, you move on to an improved model. Okay, so this is just the start. So anyway, you'll be shocked how easy this is. So the first issue, man, let's just, I don't know where to start here. I've got all these notes. Let's just start with this one. What does self-sufficient have to mean? Thoreauvian, okay, not what does self-sufficient mean? What is Thoreauvian self-sufficiency? We're defining the term. That's what this show is doing tonight. We're defining the term. All right. Now, and if anybody thinks that this doesn't work, we can't have systems like this, you're going to be proven wrong tonight. Okay? I mean, you think you can't create products? I mean, I run this by people, and they say, "Oh, we can't make a car, Jeff." No way, we can't do it. You can't get a couple people in a garage in a neighborhood to start making cars to sell to people. Oh, really? Well, okay, that's interesting. Henry Ford can make a car out of hemp. One guy, well, he's got obviously had helpers, but he was the guy behind it. One guy can make a car not out of metal, not out of plastic, out of hemp. And you're telling me you can't, there's not people out there that can get together and start building cars. I think there are, and I think they can build them way better than the junk that's out there now. 20 mile, gas guzzler cars that break apart after 5 years. That's called controlled or planned obsolescence. They teach it in graduate schools and business. You make products that don't last. I wrote about it in my book, Corporatism, and a whole section called The Economics of Destruction. You create products that fall apart. You all know this, okay? So, I mean, if you think that this can't happen, the empirical evidence will crush you. Okay, you think there can't be? We're gonna advocate a system here tonight where government, not advocate, sorry, we're going to theoretically show that there doesn't need to be a system that really has any kind of government. You can have a government in it if you want. It simply won't be relevant. I'm not going to say in Thoreauvian self-sufficiency, government should be there, shouldn't be there. It just simply won't be relevant. So you can put it there in place if you want, but it really won't have anything to do. Okay? And you think the people have so much trouble with this, even people in conspiracy movement. Oh, Jeff, now you've gone too far. No, this is impossible, Jeff. You can't have a system like that. You have to have, so who's going to build the roads? You know, that, I mean, my response, I'm going to respond to that in many ways tonight. The first response I have is to say, all I need to do is point to the huge amount of cultures around the world that have existed exactly like I'm going to advocate tonight. And they're not all rainforest Indians. Okay, in my book, Corporatism, in the first chapter, I write about what's called anarchistic corporatism. Okay, that's the only part in that book where I try to present a solution to the problem of corporatism. In the book, in corporatism, I basically take 400 pages and 800 footnotes to show that every problem in your life stems from one thing, corporatism, which is the economics of the New World Order that I already just described. It's synonymous. Okay, the solution to that is Thoreauvian self-sufficiency. Okay, but in the first chapter of corporatism, I discuss a documentary called The Take. I don't know where to find it. It's very hard. I got it off the Sundance Channel years and years ago, back in 2005, the last days of when I had cable. I think it was 2005 or 6. I was in West Lafayette, Indiana. Right before I canceled cable, I recorded it off there. Okay, and I just took notes and notes, and it was just the most. It basically involves a documentary study of a phenomenon that's happened all over the world, and that is where factory workers in places in South America, Central America, and Europe, but specifically this video was about South America, Argentina, I believe it was, where factory workers took over a factory, threw the owner out, who was taking all the money, and they, with armed resistance, controlled the factory and ran it themselves. Guess what happened? Just take a guess what happened. Do you think I'm going to say, oh, it fell apart because they didn't have any leadership and management and so forth? No. Everybody got, well, compared to what they got rich. Not necessarily rich, but I mean, everybody had a whole bunch of money. The company ran as smooth as a Swiss watch. The products that they produced were much, much better. And they had absolutely no management structure, other than they all got together daily to all decide as a group what was going to happen. Okay, and I know a lot of you are saying, oh, Jeff, this is communism. No, it's not. Okay? It's called every person is the government. You're the government. You're the government just as much as Barack Obama is the government, and Barack Obama is the government just as much as your neighbor's the government. Your neighbor's the government just as much as the police officer with the gun is the government, and the police officer with the gun is the government just as much as, you know, a small child in kindergarten somewhere. All perfectly equal in power status. Okay, now, we don't need to focus on this. Thoreauvian self-sufficiency naturally just creates this to be the case. Okay, we don't go in and say, let's make everybody the government, because that's never going to work. No. What you need to do is rearrange the resources in people's lives. Resource their labor. You need to rearrange their labor, rearrange the resources in their life, and then you can create a change in culture. Okay? Usually what people want to do is, you know, go the opposite way. Let's try to get people to change their resources and labor. No. What you do is you change the environment to such a degree where the resources and labor change, which I'll explain how that works. Now, with Thoreauvian self-sufficiency, you have to present it to people in a way where it works, it's realistic, and it's much, much more appealing to people than their existing life. If that's all the case, it can catch on. And I don't know if it's here catching on or what. So anyway, so that example about the factory proves you wrong. If you're going to sit here and tell me this can't happen, never happened, and so forth. Yes, I go through times thinking we're doomed. I think that all the time, if you want the truth. There's nothing we can do. And that may be true, okay? I hope it's not, and if it is, then this show is a waste. Maybe it's just nobody's presented this before. Nobody's thought of Thoreauvian self-sufficiency properly before, and that's why it hasn't. And if people had the idea presented to them, it would catch on like wildfire, and in 20 years we'd be a Thoreauvian self-sufficient conglomerate of people. Okay, notice I didn't say country. I guess we would be a country, but then again, the point would be the point is the small economic groups that would exist from place to place to place. Small being in maybe 30 people or less. But we'll discuss that a little more about how, what would determine the size of the economic groups, what they do, and so forth. So, this is the only way you're going to control your life is this type of thinking that we're talking about. Okay, and I stress again, so many people say, oh, Jeff, it'll never work. People don't want to get rid of their technology. There's no reason. This doesn't have anything to do with technology. Notice things I haven't brought up. I haven't brought up the mass media. What does the mass media have to do with this? Nothing. Keep watching it. Tell Joe, the six-pack guy, to keep watching. Okay, he's not going to turn it off anyways. Okay, he's not going to turn off HBO and all this stuff. So stop trying to get people to do it. Show them a different type of economic system, which they can do right now, which will appeal to them, and that's what we're going over here tonight. Okay, so this is not some kind of unrealistic model. I could discuss group after group after group of primitive people. I know that's politically incorrect, but you know how I mean it. Pre-civilized, which is a compliment on this radio show. 4 reasons I discussed in huge detail in the past weeks, especially on that 321 show. So pre-civilized peoples, this is their natural mode in most cases of existing. It's the Thoreauvian self-sufficiency. Okay? And some of them have extremely high levels of technology. The Plains Indians in America had weather control technology. They knew start a forest fire or start a grass fire here, and then so much smoke will go in the air that in a couple days it'll rain. Okay? Because that's what huge fires will do. Will create rainstorms. Just like I remember when Yosemite burned down in the 1990s, I think it was, or I can't remember exactly when, all the crazy storms it created. So you talk about the Indians had the highest technology of all anyways, which is called telementation. So it has nothing. Really, technology is not relevant. Get those ideas out of your mind. What matters is the new economic system, the old economic system, which you're going to exit, and the new one you're going to set up, which we're going to outline right now. So, self-sufficient groups are what we need. There is no such thing as the self-sufficient person. Okay, you know what a self-sufficient person looks like? One completely stressed out person. Unless they have unless they're Jack Kerouac on the road. Or, Thoreau, and even Thoreau, you read Walden, Henry Ray David Thoreau's book. I mean, he was working a lot. So it just depends how Thoreau had just a very, very minimal, incredibly minimal amount of resources. Some seeds, a net. I think a net it was. He had to catch fish. He was not a vegan, and some books and stuff. That I guess doesn't count. But so basically, in America, people want stuff. Okay, there's no way that Thoreauvian a lot of people criticized me on the show last. I didn't even introduce Thoreauvian self-sufficiency. I just showed how it's the only solution. How it works is what I'm doing. But people were calling me all kinds of names, saying, oh, Jeff's crazy. He says we're going to live like the Indians. It's never going to happen. Well, you didn't listen, okay, because I'm talking about the Indians' economic system. Okay, and by the way, you don't know that it never can happen. Once people get a taste of this and catch on, and people may not care about the stupid TV anymore. They may not care about all the shallow life, broken life they have anymore. Okay, so what we need, anyway, what people in America want is a bunch of stuff. So the only way really to set that up in Thoreauvian self-sufficiency is to have self-sufficient groups, which is what the primitives do anyways, which is what the factory in Argentina I just described did anyway. And that happened all over the world, by the way. That's happened all over the world. I call it anarchistic corporatism in my book, Corporatism, as I already said. So if you want more than just the apples that fall from the tree or a hut that you make out of sticks or something, which as many primitive groups live. If you have a significant amount of products, not resources, but items that are in some way processed by humans, carrots dug up from the ground, a car made out of hemp, as we discussed Henry Ford, whatever, you're going to have groups that are self-sufficient. Okay, so within the group, everybody buys and sells from each other. Say, I don't know how many. You could have a group probably that's pretty big. The size of the group, I'm not really sure yet. I mean, maybe it could be a whole 300-person village. I don't know. We're going to come to a rule here. When we get a little bit further in, we're going to have, it's called a rule of anti-monopolism, anti-monopolistic rule. And that's what's going to govern corporatism. Well, Thoreauvian self-sufficiency. So let me keep moving here. I got a lot to go and got to get to the main principles. So in my analysis, it seems to me the idea of self-sufficiency isn't going to work if it's individually based. Okay, it has to be a collaboration among communities. And then you can have more stuff, which Americans want anyway. So if you say to Americans, you're not going to have your stuff, you're not going to have your TV and beer, okay, they're not going to go for it. Okay, if you can say you can have great quality beer and a TV for half the price, then maybe they'll go for it. I don't know how TV would work in a Thoreauvian self-sufficient world. All this would have to play out, We'd have to get to the first step. When I'm going to describe what some of the first steps would be, then we have to see what happens, and people have to reanalyze where we are, and so forth, and how things like that would work. It would have to be depend on what people want. Would it become the case that television, if that's so important to people, would become localized like everything else in Thoreauvian self-sufficiency, where it's just created within small economic groups? I don't know. Okay, and it's not, I'm kind of leaving it out right now because it's really not something you can touch. You touch TV, and you say that anything's going to happen to it, the average American is just going to tune you out. No pun intended. Okay, so just leave that one. Media is sort of irrelevant right now to Thoreauvian self-sufficiency. Actually, everything is. All the things that conspiracy theorists are worried about, fluoride in the water, media, brainwashing, war, none of it matters anymore with Thoreauvian self-sufficiency. It all just kind of either goes away, or you can just choose to not participate if you want, or it'll just kind of become background noise. All right, I'm thinking specifically when I say background noise of media. Okay, because anyway, if I explain it more here, you'll see why that's the case. So Thoreauvian self-sufficiency, the way we're describing it, is very practical and realistic. We're not asking people, everybody go to the woods, throw your TV away, and start eating twigs and bark. Okay, obviously Joe Sixpack's not going to do that. Okay, so that's why we're not touching that stuff. We're saying keep all your junk and TV and hot dogs, and do this other thing. And here, okay, so let me tell you what that other thing is. I mean, okay, let's come to the first huge principle of Thoreauvian self-sufficiency. Again, the goal here is the Indian template, the American Indian template, and I mean that's about uplifting people. Okay, so actually, I'm going to take a quick break here. This break will take exactly 2 minutes, and then I will tell you what this first principle.
Did you know that 21 million people are starting food gardens this year for the first time? Nothing is more empowering to your personal sovereignty than growing your own food. You pay no tax on the time you spend growing your own food. Gardening is a gateway to self-sufficiency. If you want to grow some of your own food, by planting a seed, there's no better way to start your seeds than using the Soil Cube tool. I am Clayton Jacobs, and I make the Soil Cube tool. The Soil Cube tool makes 2-inch by 2-inch cubes of soil that produce the hardiest seedlings for your garden. Rediscover this 2,000-year-old technology used by the Aztecs. There are no pots, peat pellets, or anything else to buy to start your plants for your garden off right. Use your own garden soil as the containers to start your seeds. Watch our introduction video at soilcube.com. Thank you, Antimatter Radio.
Okay, everybody, I'm back. Jeffrey Grupp, antimatterradio.com. That was an ad from the Soil Cube. That is a product by an Antimatter Radio listener. That is not a paid ad. That is an ad for free. And I have many reasons for saying that, but this is how it's going to work. You know, I help someone out with their Thoreauvian product. Thoreauvian is, of course, the adjective form that employs or incorporates the last name of Henry David Thoreau. That's how it works. He's got a product which promotes Thoreauvian self-sufficiency. I promote it. I have products too. Okay, they're called DVDs and books. They also promote the same thing. This, you know, anything from all the spiritual stuff I talk about on radio and so forth. Now, that brings us to the first principle here. And I don't know what you'll all think of this, but I don't see any other way that Thoreauvian self-sufficiency can get moving and exist other than having this as the first and primary principle. And it's going to have a couple rules in it. Well, the first and primary principle is as follows. Every single one of you listening, including myself, needs to start a business right away. Okay? You don't have to, and here's how it works. You do not quit your existing job, obviously. Okay? There's a couple points here. I'm going to go through about 10 points of what this means that you're going to start a business. Or that you have, if you want it to work, you have to. I've started one. It's called Antimatter LLC. So anyways, give me some time here to go through these 10 points of how you're going to start it. The main point behind starting a business is you need to start a business. Every person listening, every person in America has to do this in general. Or 50, you know, we need some huge percentage of them, 50% of Americans or something, doing this to get this started. You know, over the next 10 years, we want this to happen. You know, 50, 80% of Americans starting their own business. Now, key rule to this. They have to start a business. Listen to this. They have to start a business in something they would do anyways. Take your favorite thing that you do. Look, you hear me? Take your favorite thing you do and turn it into a business. Okay, so it's completely realistic that people will do it. It's not saying, you know, you start it in your evening. I mean, obviously, you can't quit your $3 an hour McDonald's job. I'm just kidding. You know, whatever you do, if you're an attorney or a doctor or you clean up baseball parks, whatever you do, you obviously can't quit that job because you have to pay, you know, you have to pay to live. So you start this in your evening when you have time. Just start it for fun. Okay? Do you like to make engines? Do that. Do you like to make biodiesel? Which I used to do. Do you like to write? I started one. I like to write. I like to make films, and I like art. And I'm a philosophy teacher, and I like philosophy. See, I still have my, notice, I'm trying, if you can't tell, I'm trying to do this myself. Okay, last year I tried to support myself just doing radio, and it took a lot out of me. It was very difficult. And I just said near the end of the year I miss teaching, and I think this is just too much. I'm not quite, the radio show's not big enough, not even close. I mean, we just scraped by. I need it to be bigger before it can support me. You know, and also, of course, on the other hand, you know, you want to reduce your, over this time frame we're giving ourselves, 10 or 20 years, you want to reduce your costs to live more and more and more. Okay, so this is a process. So anyway, back to our initial point. Take whatever it is that you like, and it has to have really zero startup costs as well. Most businesses do. I think, see, people have a misunderstanding of what it means to start a business. As soon as I say start a business, people think, oh, I have to start a computer business, or I have to start, you know, biotech, big pharmaceutical industry or something. No. The good businesses are not that crap. The good businesses are what people need. I mean, they produce what people need to live day to day. Okay? That is, and those, I bet you, if all of you, when I said all of you need to find out what you like to do more than anything, I bet most of you had something flash through your mind when I said that. And I bet you in 70 to 90% of those cases, it was something that people need. And it can include some kind of pleasure or something. Pleasure is one of the basic necessities of life. Okay? What are the basic necessities of life? Food, shelter, water, warmth, clothing, pleasure, love, spirituality. I mean, maybe there's a couple I'm missing, but those are the basic necessities. Okay, if you take some of those away, and society and or the individual warps and becomes deformed, becomes civilized, becomes corporatized or something. Okay, so this is the key. It either Thoreauvian self-sufficiency either happens this way because this starts to get implemented, or it doesn't. Okay, now Clayton, whose ad I just played, does that. Okay, that's what he did. Let's go through some examples. Let's go through a couple good examples. Let's take me first, for example, then Clayton. I never, ever intended to be on the radio, to sell books, nothing, in graduate school. And then around 2003, 4, right in there, I became really immersed in it again, and I started writing my book, Corporatism. And it was pretty much finished in 06. I think it formally was published in early 07, if I remember correctly. And Dr. Deagle of the News Medical Report found out about it and invited me on the show. And things just started. I mean, I never imagined that would happen. I never planned it, nothing. People started buying it, started selling. More shows started asking me on. Alex Jones had me on in 2009. Then the book started to go crazy. The Power Hour had me on a bunch of times in 2009. That was probably the biggest catalyst of all for the book. And then I published 2 more books. And I never planned any of it. And the point is I was just doing what I liked to do the most anyways. And it turned into a business. That's what every single person listening needs to have happen. You need to turn what you just naturally do into money-making. Do you like to farm? Well, that can turn into money-making. Do you like to read kids' books? That can turn into money-making. Whatever it is. Unless it's some junk, like you like to sit around and eat hot dogs, it can turn into making money. And I bet you in every case, this is another one of the issues into this idea of starting your own business, I bet you in every case, it helps people. And it lifts people up. It bolsters them. Isn't that interesting? If you think to yourself, people, any small industry small business you know a lady that makes soap. I'm going to discuss that example just in a second here. Most of the, the lady who sells strawberries at the end of the street. Or you've got a friend who makes, sweaters for kids that get sold at, some local stores now. See, the small industries like this, almost in every case, are tremendously helpful to people. It's the big monopolistic corporatism which does the opposite. Okay, I loved how Ed said it on Black Helicopter Radio the other day. I forgot how he summed it up. He summed up in a really interesting way that I never thought about before, of how Thoreauvian self-sufficiency is the opposite of corporatism, which I know you all know that, but anyway, I forgot what he said. So let me go through some other examples. Now, I bet you most of you, when you thought of an industry to start up, sorry, why do you keep saying industry? A small business to start up, it's in demand as well. I guarantee you it's in demand. Okay? But most people that you know want to find products that are made high quality, made by just some little person in their kitchen or garage or backyard or something, and are super pure and high quality, whatever they are, whether it's a hemp car or carrots or a radio or whatever. Okay? Most people like that. Okay? And it's not that expensive to make this stuff if you know how to do it. All right, I mean, that's why, if anybody noticed, my books on my website are cheap. They include shipping. They're including shipping. They're cheaper than the before shipping cost on Amazon. Nothing against Amazon. I'm not going to have any comment for or against them. I mean, I've sold a lot of books on Amazon, so I'm not going to bite the hand that feeds me quite at this moment. So, but anyways, isn't that interesting? I make 3 times as much on a book if you buy it directly off my website. 3 times. That's with shipping. Anyway, I think you got the point. Okay, so it's like $16 for telementation if you buy it on Amazon after shipping and everything, and I make a third. And then if you buy it from me, I think we just raised the price 20 or 30 cents too. I think it's under 12, and we make 3 times more, including shipping. So you see the point here. Okay, when you go to this Thoreauvian self-sufficient level, where you imagine 2 people passing a product back and forth, the classic barter system picture. That's where everybody makes money. Did you hear me properly? No, everybody thinks this is how we're going to get poor. No, this is how you make money. Okay, you cut out all corporatism is. This huge megaplex of monopolistic corporations around the world that produce most of the products that people buy to survive day to day is nothing but a third man. Okay? Nothing but a set of hands between the 2 that are buying and selling. Okay, we could produce all those products ourselves, and we could take all that profit. That product profit's going to somebody. Why doesn't it just go to us? You see, Thoreauvian self-sufficiency is how everybody gets filthy rich. Did you hear me correctly? This is almost just funny. It's so obvious, so simple, so amazing, and it's so shocking that we're not doing this. Bill Gates you take all the incomes of the people in America, the lower half of them, add up all their money annually, Bill Gates makes more than them combined. Okay? That's how much money there is to go around. All of you have just been tricked into thinking erroneously, non-empirically, that there's not much money to go around. Oh, okay, go pay attention to Wall Street for one day. There's so much money being thrown around, it's absolutely staggering. Okay? Absolutely, I can't even imagine how much money. Okay, I own a couple stocks. I own 3 medical marijuana stocks, AMNG. Woo, that one's up 100% this year too. I forgot what they all are. I don't pay attention to it much. The Hemp Network's another one. And then I own Vitamin Spice, VTMS, which I may sell because I think they're non-organic. I've been finding out. And a Walmart guy just joined on as well, which gave me a big warning. But anyways, I just haven't gotten around to it. I don't pay attention to it much. But anyways. So anyway, the point is I pay attention to stocks a little bit, and this idea people have of I don't know what people are thinking. If you just imagine in your mind everybody buying and selling to each other, this is how we get. This is how actual raw capitalism starts. There is no capitalism in America now. Capital means that the average person has capital. The average person does not have capital. A mortgaged house is not capital. That's renting. Nice way of putting it. Thoreauvian self-sufficiency allows for raw, showing your teeth, fierce capitalism. Okay? That's what you want. That's the best life possible is the life where everybody is loaded. Okay? I mean, how many times have you heard somebody say, "I don't want the bad I don't want to move to the bad neighborhood." They mean a neighborhood with crime, where they don't like the neighbors, and somebody's laying on the street drunk or something. Whatever. Okay? And where everybody's loaded. I mean, I know some of you probably don't like me saying this, but the amount of wealth you have changes your behavior. Okay? You look at yourself very, very differently if you're dirt poor or if you have sufficient wealth. And it changes your attitude towards how you feel about your family more than you would ever imagine. Okay? I mean, I know some of you don't like this, that I'm saying this, but, just go look at some statistics. Crime is rampant and the more poverty arises. I mean, the more crime is higher in the impoverished zones. Okay? It's go ask a police officer, say, where do you spend, a third shift police officer, say, where do you spend most of the night? They'll say, well, we just spend it in the same neighborhoods every night. And then there's the rest of the city's quiet. So you get my point. So that what we want, what I'm trying to say here is what we want in our lives is for everybody to be loaded. Imagine if you had a whole bunch of money and all the supplies and products and you needed, and you're doing great and don't have to worry. Imagine if you never had a life you had to worry about bills and money. Can anybody imagine? No, I don't think you can, because that's what Thoreauvian self-sufficiency involves. You don't have to worry about where stuff's coming from or how to pay the bills and so forth. Okay? So, anyways, imagine that you've got all the things you need, and you've got the nice, comfortable house, and so do all your neighbors, and all their neighbors, and all their neighbors. Do you need to worry about, the crime-infested neighborhood? Nope. You certainly don't. So we have this attitude in America, like we need to have, I need to make sure I have more than the next guy. No. That's what creates the problems. Okay, you need to have this attitude. I want to have a ton of stuff, and I want everybody else to also. And when we say ton of stuff, all the things that can spiritually uplift me, give me perfect independence, and the products that can make me healthy, make my family happy, give me the proper pleasure, entertainment, survivability, and lack of worry. You want everybody to have that. That's a society that has the minimal amount of crime, the minimal amount of mental confusion among citizens, to put it mildly. So, but anyways, back to that point I just made. I was thinking about this earlier today. Thoreauvian self-sufficiency, once it really was properly implemented, is the economic system in a region, nation, whatever you want to call it, is a system where this thing where I bet you 80% of the people listening to this show right now, you're worried about money. You're worried about it today. You're worried about it yesterday. And what are you worried about? What are you worried about? You're worried about how to basically pay off some bank for some loan you have. How do you pay for your house? How do you, etc. That's all that vanishes. There is no more loan. There are no more loans. Okay, I need to explain a little bit more. I'm jumping ahead a little bit here. But as you'll see in Thoreauvian self-sufficiency, there's some key points to it that you'll see in a little bit. There are no more loans and so forth. There's no more trying to pay off the bank. There is no more, let's try to make enough money to pay the corporatist middleman, the middle set of hands. Okay? No, all there is just make my products with my family, a couple hours a day, the rest of the day, leisure time. Okay, you want to be rich and have a ton of leisure time? Thoreauvian self-sufficiency. Okay? I spend, my business that I run, last year when I was getting moving, sometimes it would take me 8 hours a day. Okay? Now the way I'm doing it, all I did with these, I've been thinking about these Thoreauvian self-sufficiency notes for a few years. I just whipped them out during the day today after I was done doing some things, and then glanced over them again with some other notes that I had from a few years ago when I was talking to my wife tonight. Bam, there's the show. Okay? So the point is not, let's try to work as little as possible so we can sit around and watch TV. That's not the point. The point is, in the corporatistic culture, everybody's working like crazy. This idea of, 9-hour day is really absurd if you think of, does anybody stop and think it's really absurd? Let's get up before it's even light out, dump the kids off somewhere, go work the whole day at a job you probably don't even really like, and then do it again the next day. That's why we have, Prozac and beer for, that's like another kind of Prozac beer is, and so forth. That's why we need all this stuff. Okay, because we're trying to, put the pain, quell the pain or something. I don't know how to put it. It's not the subject of the show. So anyway, back to this idea. Let's get moving here a little bit. So everybody needs to start your own business. And I already outlined the principles of that. So I'm going through a couple examples. Now, there is a type of granola bar. I'm going to explain some more businesses that have started, how this works. I explained mine. Clayton's, too. He's just doing what he likes, and it's turned into a business, Soil Cube. We just played his ad. Okay, and if you're interested, you don't go to Slave Mart and buy that product. Buy it from him. Okay? I know that we're buying across the Internet. I don't know what to do about that issue yet. Maybe to set it up if the Internet is taken over by the people in 20 years, maybe until then or maybe somehow the Internet can be, I don't know. I don't want to talk about that right now, okay? I don't have every answer for how this is going to work. I don't know how the Internet fits in. I'm basically broadcasting the Thoreauvian Self-Sufficiency show over the Internet right now, and the Internet is, strictly speaking, sort of, the way it's set up, it's a corporatist enterprise, and it's anti-Thoreauvian self-sufficiency. Yes, I know it's a contradiction. I don't know what to do about that yet. Let's move on. Maybe we'll figure it out in the future, okay? All of you also listening are taking part in that contradiction as well. Okay, and we'll figure that out later. So, anyway, let's describe some other businesses. I used to make biodiesel in my garage. I used to have a VW Jetta, and it took me just maybe a week to figure out how to make perfectly clean, washed biodiesel. And I used to think, man, I could make a ton of money off this. And the only reason I stopped doing this is because I just didn't feel like doing it anymore. Because I'd rather do my other passion, which is philosophy and stuff like that. Okay, now let me tell you about another one. This one is very interesting. There is a type of granola bar. Okay, let me start over. If any of you open up the current Oprah magazine, I don't read Oprah's magazine. I was emailed this information because this involves a friend of mine. A friend of my wife's and myself is in the current Oprah magazine. A good friend that we've known since high school. She went to the same college as us and everything. My wife was in a sorority in college. Different, that was almost 20 years ago. It was different times, obviously, but she wasn't. It was my wife's sorority friend as well. They were in the same sorority. So, anyways, there's no lie. It's a crazy story, but it's the truth. Her name's Veronica Vroon. Okay, Vroon. This is an amazing story. You're going to love it. She's in the current Oprah magazine because the Oprah magazine is promoting her granola bar. Okay, now I've not said much about Oprah. I said a couple things on Ed Walker's show a few weeks ago, but I don't have anything to say about her either way right now. I do have some thoughts, but I'm not going there right now. It's not as easy of an issue as I think some of you think. But anyways, so this lady, Veronica Vroon, my wife's friend from way back, she had a child who had allergies, and she didn't like the food, her options, even at the health stores, so-called health stores, of what granola bar to buy. So she started making her own granola bars for her kids to solve the problem. So it didn't have she knew exactly what was going in, grown in the garden, and so forth. And then the problem, of course, the allergy went away. Well, guess what happened? Some friend said, "Oh, can you make some for me? I'll pay you. This is such an amazing product." See, there's demand. Who would ever think you could go buy granola bars anywhere? But no, they don't want those. They want hers. Okay, this is how it works. This is why my radio career and my writing career has taken off. I never once planned it. Okay, I started Antimatter Radio without thinking. I just decided one night in 2009 I wasn't teaching anymore. I said I want to still teach, so I said I'm going to do radio, and I just did it. The next day I started a show. Okay, so anyways, same with her. So people started saying, can I buy it? And then friends of those people, I want to buy some, and all of a sudden she has a small business, never thought once about doing it, okay? It started to get so big, it turned into a bona fide business in the familiar sense of the word, where she had to start hiring people to make them. She was a high school chemistry teacher. She had to quit her job, and then it turned into a rather large business where it was selling granola bars all over Michigan. Now she's an Oprah, and obviously it's nationwide. I think it's at Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, and they all carry the bar. And I think it used to be called Vroon bars. Now I think it's called Pure or something, Pure bars. I don't know. My wife knows. She does all her shopping and stuff. She buys them for our girls. So, anyways, do you see how? Do you see what I'm saying here? This is the template of starting your own business. The key principle of Thoreauvian self-sufficiency is starting your own business. She starts a business not even trying to. It's just something she wanted to do anyways. Okay? It's zero startup costs. Well, you're going to buy food anyway, so for all intents and purposes, zero startup costs. And, oh, what a coincidence. Wink, wink, not really. It helps people. Okay? My business, Clayton's business, the Vroon Bar, the biodiesel example, all the same. All the same. This is how it works, okay? You get rid of corporatism, and industry turns into Thoreauvian self-sufficiency to some degree, whether you realize it or not. And the industry is good. It helps people. Corporatism is the industry that hurts. Thoreauvian self-sufficiency is where products actually uplift people, and lives are therefore uplifted, and we have free time and so forth. So, I mean, there's so many industries that can be started. Here in Michigan, here in Ann Arbor, medical marijuana is absolutely booming. Okay, I had a whole bunch of listeners emailing me, "Hey, Jeff, you going to go to the hash bash?" The hash bash here, hemp is basically legal here, THC hemp in Ann Arbor. And I mean, they have festivals here, if you didn't know, where you can just smoke it in designated areas and with police right next to you, no big deal. So, I mean, pot is becoming legal. There's 4 states that have medical marijuana legalized. I believe it's 4. Michigan's 1. California's another. There's been, there were whole neighborhoods of families in California who were all facing foreclosure and so forth. What did they do? Did they sit there and say, "Oh, no, the industries are leaving. Oh, the New World Order businesses are moving to China"? No. They let them go. Bye. So sad to see you go. I wanted my slave job back. Not. No, they started businesses. Doing what? Growing medical marijuana. To help. There you go again. Bam. Help people. Okay? Small businesses. House to house. And guess what? Guess they sold them right. They sold the pot right to dispensaries. So the middle corporatist hands are eliminated. Guess what? You can go read about case after case after case of this online. Guess what happened to these people? Filthy rich. Not that that's the goal, but that's what happens. Do we need to go on with more examples? Organic farming, superconductivity, solar power. You can make solar power panels in your backyard for like nothing compared to what they're sold for online or by companies. Okay, spirituality is an industry. I'm profiting off that. Okay, I've got a book called Telementation. I've got, all kinds of, a book called, a movie called The Inner Starseed. There, I mean, that's a good one. People are dying, so to speak, for true spiritual information. If that's your favorite thing, go become a spiritual expert and find some way where you can make money giving that information to people. People will pay. My book, Telementation, people often ask me how, what's involved with that. All Telementation was that I wrote that book in like no time at all. It was just a set of notes, okay? Because I noticed Telementation happening in my meditation experiences back in the 90s, and I had a bunch of notes on them, and then I just learned about this book, The Secret, and I said, no, that book's isn't describing it properly, so I wrote my book, showed it to my publisher. I just showed them my notes. Tree of Life Books published it, and they said, okay, polish it up, we want it. And then so I took a month or whatever to polish it up, bam, and it's my best-selling book. It's been a bestseller status on Amazon a couple different times, such as after I was on Coast to Coast, just for short periods of time. So, a lot of people think, to start a business, I need to start a computer business. I need to start, some high. No, it's a myth. Those are the crap industries, people. The good industries are the ones you're never told about. Food, cars, farm equipment, real entertainment, that really entertains people rather than just drugs them. True spirituality, transportation, nutrition. These things are really what people will buy. Okay, how many startup computer companies can't even make it? Okay, but Veronica Vroon in her kitchen can start a booming mega industry without even, by accident. I mean, that's essentially what, well, I mean, Antimatter LLC, my business is nothing like that, but, I mean, I've had times, like after I was on Coast to Coast AM, I mean, I couldn't even keep up. My wife and daughters and I are like freaking out, saying, how are we going to mail all these books? You know, how are we going to burn enough DVDs? And that's without, I didn't call Coast to Coast, okay, to be on the show. They contacted me, actually my publisher contacted me and said, Coast to Coast wants you to call them. They were looking at all our authors, and they said they want you and Webster Tarpley on the show right away. I said, okay, and I called them. I was on a week later, and all heck broke loose with orders. Why do I say this? Because this is what real, listen carefully, real economic demand is like this. It's products people actually use to live day to day, the basic necessities. Okay, strictly speaking, a computer is not necessarily falling into that. Maybe, but I mean, there's things that are more primary. Okay, such as food, spirituality, and clothing. Or, you know, things, your family. There's like another industry-related issue. Okay, so all of you have been tricked into thinking. A lot of you are, I think, probably entrepreneurs that listen to the show, but a lot of you have been tricked into thinking, I can't start a business. That's, well, you're wrong. You just have thought, starting a business means you go and invent some invention or something. No, you start a business by getting some wheatgrass seeds, growing them in your window, growing the wheatgrass in your window, grinding up the juice, and selling a bottle for $20. Now, that's a pretty big markup. But the point is, people will pay. All you have to do is find the proper place to market. Set up a website, go to the health store, go to the farmer's market, all kinds of places you can sell it. How much did it cost you to start that business up? Oh, like 30 cents. How much effort involved? 2 hours a week for work. And you could probably make $100 a week or $200 a week. Multiply the number of, increase the business, the money goes up. That's how simple it is. You don't even need land in that case. Just have good windows or something. The limit, it's endless. How many? I mean, you want to make engines? Go make diesel engines. That's a tricky one because you're probably going to get attacked by big oil. But you can probably get away with it for a little while and make a lot of money, at least. Or maybe you can make them in Mexico, or I don't know. But I mean, there's an industry. Just go to Autotrader.com and go look at an old 1980 Mercedes. That's a gas-powered car. Was it going to sell for $100? Then go look up an old Mercedes, 1982, for example, Mercedes that's a diesel. What does it sell for? $1,000 to $3,000. Have 200,000 miles on it. It sells for $2,500, $3,000. Well, that's because it's in demand. Because people know to go to 1 million miles, best combustion engine made, and do you need to be some incredible expert to make it? No, you just need to know how to do it. Some guy named Dr. Diesel invented it, and Henry Ford could make similar things out of hemp, so I think there's probably people that are listening that know how to make an engine. If you're an auto mechanic, you can do this, okay, if it's what you want to do. Okay, so anyway, there's other points. Man, there's a lot of stuff here. Lots and lots of notes. Let's maybe we can come back to some of this in a little bit. Let me move on to some other points here. Now, all the engine of Thoreauvian self-sufficiency is this concept of starting businesses. So let's go through a couple more concepts. Now, there has to be some rules, but on the other hand, there doesn't, because this will all fall into place. Now, one rule I have written down here, it can't be a New World Order assisting business that you create. Now, I don't exactly know what that would be, how you could sort of, it's kind of interesting, though. I mean, I can't even think of how to start a business just here on my own that would assist the New World Order, because if I do, it just automatically it helps people. That's how different big monopolistic corporatist industry is compared to, me, some guy in a basement that sells books and stuff. So but that has to be a rule. And we're going to define just a little more, in just a few minutes, we're going to define what this means. Okay, it's called anti-monopolism. That's going to be the key to it all. So, but the point here is what I'm saying. Anybody who doesn't operate according to self-government, where what's built into Thoreauvian self-sufficiency is everybody has the equal amount of power. Your power is given to you by the land that you live on and the product that you create. Those are actual power. Now, I know a lot of you are like, no, that's not power. Well, in all practical terms and how the world works, those are what give people power. If you have no land and no products, well, then, you live in a studio apartment and work at McDonald's. If you control some land and make a product, you're going to be filthy rich and so forth. So, now controlling land, that's another issue. Let me just go into that a second. That's one of those tricky issues. We're gonna have to get into some issues and talk about Thoreauvian self-sufficiency, where a lot of the things that we're used to, like the existence of a government, the idea that you have to pay someone for the land you live on, as Thoreauvian self-sufficiency gets set up, those things fade away. I'm not saying they're gone overnight, taxes and so forth, but they would eventually kind of fade away. So the point here is, please listen, the point is, don't worry about those right now. Just worry about principle 1 of Thoreauvian self-sufficiency, which is starting your own business according to the principles I just outlined. Okay, if everybody does this, people are going to all of a sudden at some point in 15 years realize, why am I paying for taxes? Or you're paying taxes. Why am I paying the bank? Why am I doing this and that? Because those things become irrelevant. Okay, if Thoreauvian, in the same way that Walmart would go out of business, if Thoreauvian self-sufficiency was implemented, gradually Walmart would go out of business. Okay, it's analogous to how Borders is in trouble because of Amazon. Okay, roughly analogous. Just, people's buying and selling changed, so Borders is now in trouble. Okay, so as people's buying and selling changed to Thoreauvian self-sufficiency, industries would fade away. All the big monopolistic New World Order industries would fade away. And some of those that would fade away would be banks and so forth. Okay? The IRS. That one's a little bit different. There would have to become a point where there would come a point where people started to realize that now people view their life, the power they get comes from government. They give me my security. They give me my police force. They give me my roads. They give me my kids' schools. They give me everything. They tell me who I am. They give me my identity. Well, let's not go that far. It's true, but let's not talk about that in this show. There would come a point where all these services, the best one to talk about is security. We'll talk about that one in just 10 seconds. All these services would start to become into the control of the Thoreauvian self-sufficiency. And people would wonder, why am I paying this other entity? And they would just stop. Okay, so the only way to, so as you see how Thoreauvian self-sufficiency is the answer to everything. Okay? And you don't have to, let's try to have a march let's try to demonstrate for the IRS to get them to listen. You really think they're going to listen? Okay, they're in control right now. They are in control. And they're laughing at your march. Okay? March all you want. March for a week. We'll just start up the system the day you get back. Okay? And then come knocking on your door for those taxes with a big gun. Anyways, anyway. A while ago, it's relevant here. Now, okay, here's the deal. A lot of people say, okay, Jeff, if all this stuff fades away in Thoreauvian self-sufficiency, because it would, trust me, it would. Military, courts, a lot of stuff. I don't know what would happen to some of this stuff. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it wouldn't all fade away. I don't know. Maybe the Thoreauvian self-sufficiency of the future, if this happens in 25, 30 years or whatever, would still want some minimal government or something. I don't know. It would have to be I can't project. I'm just theorizing here at this moment, and I don't know exactly how this would all turn out. My guess is government, like I said, government just becomes irrelevant. It doesn't really matter if it's there or not. Nobody's going to give it any money after this gets developed enough, Thoreauvian self-sufficiency, and there's going to be nothing for them to do because they're not giving anybody security or money or property or possessions or anything. Those are all given to each other by the people. Now, security is a big one, and basically, a lot of people would say, okay, so everything fades away here. We lose the military. Then how do we protect, where's our security? that's a very serious question, I think. A good one. I don't think all the answers on that right now, but I have a general sketch, which I've been thinking about for some years, like this in this article here, written just under 2 years ago. The basic idea, the answer to that question, you already have. Okay, that's simply doing what Thomas Jefferson said. American Indians armed themselves. They had bows and arrows. Okay, the lady that goes jogging in the forest, she arms herself with mace. I think mace is kind of a joke. I mean, you should probably carry something more substantial. But I guess that's the point. Is they aren't anyway. Sorry, not to get off. Talk about that. The point is she's armed. Okay, the natural thing for people to do is arm themselves. So anyway, it's in our Constitution, which we could keep in our self-sufficient Thoreauvian lifestyle, because in general, we may want to amend the Constitution a little bit, because there would be no corporate taxation anymore and so forth, as the Constitution talks about. So yeah, we'd maybe have some amendments, but we just simply do what the Second Amendment says. Here's my point. Now, what's more secure? Now I know some of you know some of this stuff, and I've read this article, so I'll finish talking about this in about 2 minutes. But what's more secure? 300 million gun owners, or it's not that many. Some people, there's 300 million people in America. Some are kids. So let's say 250 million gun owners, well armed, or a military made up of 1 million people that are, over in Iraq or something. What's more secure? Or another way I could put it, what's more secure? 250 million gun owners, or nothing against the police. I always speak quite highly of police, but they're not around all over the place. They're in a car here and there, So what's better, to have no gun in your house and then wait for the police to arrive if somebody's breaking in or something, or have a gun in your house and there's no worry? If you're living where, people talk about gang violence so much, if there's, what sounds better to you? To have no gun and then call the police on your cell phone if the gang is harassing you and wait till they get there? That's going to work out real well. What's better, that or having a gun in your purse or your pockets, which is not intended to be used, but as soon as you flash it at any threatening force, they will scatter like cockroaches? I mean, obviously, the better scenario. It's the one that the Constitution employs, the Second Amendment. So the point is, actually, Thoreauvian if you have another rule added to, Thoreauvian self-sufficiency would have like 10, 20 rules. One of them would be everybody's armed, okay, and armed to whatever weapons there you're armed with. Now, does that mean nuclear bomb? Of course, we don't mean that. And people can't get their hands on that anyways because there's not enough stuff around. Anyway, that's another issue. So the point is that Thoreauvian self-sufficiency would actually employ better security. Okay, understatement. Now, I'm not going to go into that issue anymore. Now, the only issue would be if there was another nation that invaded America. But anyway, let's say in the case where it did happen, there would probably have to be some situation where the militia, the citizenry, knew how to organize and fend off an attack, just to a minimum degree. Because, I mean, even if the other place had, or the invading forces had advanced weaponry, with that many gun owners, it's going to be a demolishing with not too many casualties on the side of the people being invaded. So that's a whole other issue, which I don't have time to discuss right now, and I'm not going to. I have elsewhere to a high degree. But that would be another show. We would have to get into all issues of if what I just said is true, blah, blah, blah. So that, like I said, this is just an introductory deal here. But those are important issues. But notice, Thoreauvian self-sufficiency always leads towards the optimal scenario. Okay, more security, for example, in this case. So now let's get into something very important here. This key principle. You have to start a business. And the main rule number one is starting your own business has to be something, whatever you like most in your life, and then 2, don't quit your day job until it's set up, okay, and supporting you. Just like I'm doing. I still teach and I'm doing radio. And teaching I won't do forever, obviously. So now here's another rule. Now there has to be another, I don't know how we would enforce these rules. It would have to just be, so there's another rule here. It's you have to keep businesses small. And I'm going to call this the rule of anti-monopolism. And it has a couple of points here. So anyway, the first key point was, the first key points were about setting up a business I gave. Now the third one here is anti-monopolism. Probably the most important point. So again, I don't know how this would be enforced. There'd be no police force to go around and enforce this. The police force in Thoreauvian self-sufficient society is just the people. Okay. Which it could be that way now if we follow the Second Amendment, would just naturally fall into that. I think gun owners kind of think that way anyways. They think, if you've got a gun in your house, you're not thinking, oh my gosh, if somebody breaks in, not like break-ins happen, all the time, but, there's some places where people have to worry about that every night, Chicago and so forth. But, the average gun owner doesn't think, oh my, it's almost a funny thought, I hope someone doesn't break into my house because I have to call the police. No, it's the last thing on their mind. I know, it's funny, when you go down to the shooting range, some gun owners are almost like, I almost kind of hope someone breaks into my house so I can exercise my Second Amendment individuality. So anyways, that's another story. But now anti-monopolism here is extremely important. This is, there's a lot of stuff here. This is a key issue, heavily related to, it's just heavily related to everything. Okay, so businesses, the problem with the modern world is monopolism. Government is a monopoly. Banking is a monopoly. Food production is a set of monopolies. Computer, buying personal computers is a set of monopolies. All these businesses are, there's other monopolies people don't even think about. Voting machines. Diebold, stupid company, that's a monopoly. Here we go, Whole Foods. There's one just a 5-minute walk from my house here. That's a monopoly. Okay, yes, I know there's Trader Joe's and Central Indiana had Sunspot Market, and I know there's some other ones, but really Whole Foods fits the definition of a monopoly if you see how much of the share of organic food they control. And really, I'm not against Whole Foods, okay? But I will say this, though, it is interesting. Go compare the prices of Trader Joe's to Whole Foods, and it's unbelievable how different it is. The same product in Trader Joe's sometimes will be a third of the price of Whole Foods. Now, we've done these comparisons because both places exist here in Ann Arbor. Why would that be? The only answer I can come to is monopolism. Because Whole Foods, anyways, your buying and selling consists mostly of buying from monopolies. Now, I would say Whole Foods would be the minimal level of corruption involved. I don't know. Maybe there's stuff I don't know, but I'm not going to comment. I don't know. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. That's not the point, okay? But the monopolies that you buy from tend to produce products that are almost unfathomably bad. Medicines that side effects of death. Food called organic, loaded with really lethal chemicals. Lethal if you eat them for 10, 20 years or whatever. Just almost absurd, bizarre, surreal scenarios. Okay, all this goes away with Thoreauvian self-sufficiency. Okay, now, the only way Thoreauvian self-sufficiency would work, where every person in America owns a business. That's or else maybe there's cases where there's 3 households that, say like an auto, if you make car engines, that may be obviously more work than just a household would do. Maybe 4 households own a business of creating car engines out of hemp, as Henry Ford did. In general, you see how it's going to work. I don't know exactly the numbers. 1 household, 4 households. I don't know. It would have to be implemented. Then we would know how it would all work. So, but there would have to be. Okay, so again, our problem is monopolism. So the opposite is where we want to go in this case. In this case, it is the scenario where the opposite is the desired state, and that is anti-monopolism. Now, how would that work? There has to be a very simple rule. It has to avoid all the problems of monopolism that we have now and not even allow a hint of it creeping in. And it has to happen where the buyers have to make sure they're not buying from monopolies and so forth. But I think the main rule is one principle, of monopolism. And I don't know if this is right or not. This may allow companies to get too big in Thoreauvian self-sufficiency. Companies have to be small enough where the employee numbers are such that everybody is making a ton of money, of wealth, whatever the wealth standard is in the Thoreauvian self-sufficient society. I don't know if it would be money or silver or just the products themselves or a digit on a computer. I don't know what it would be. Time would tell if this ever was set up. But whatever the measure of wealth is, companies would have to be such that there's no menial workers. Okay, the owner of the company is packaging up things in the boxes and putting them on the delivery vehicle or whatever. Okay, do you got me? As soon as you have a differentiation in wealth, menial workers are either created or it's coming. Menial workers is basically slavery, $2 an hour. Okay, I'll stop kidding around. Minimum wage jobs in America is the obvious example everybody thinks of. But, we're used to every business involving this. Every business, even the mom and pop, I keep picking on monopolistic corporatism, but the mom and pop companies do the same thing. Mom and pop on the top make all the money, and then you've got a horde of people, 30 employees on the bottom making crap. Okay, that's the problem. That breeds poverty. Poverty breeds crime. Poverty breeds disease, social problem, everything. Poverty is a much bigger problem than people think. And the solution to it is, the poverty is caused by corporatism. Okay, people are quick to point out, this is why poverty, this is why poverty. Why doesn't somebody, maybe poverty is because Bill Gates has, more money than the lower 50% of the people's wealth in America, as I discussed earlier. And some people say, oh, no, Jeff, now you're at, what are we going to do, get the big government in there to regulate how much money he has and set up unions? And no, and no. That's decent but simplistic objection. The answer is Thoreauvian self-sufficiency, is what I would say. And that can't be, you could never discuss Thoreauvian self-sufficiency on Fox News. Okay, some topics take 5 hours to outline, and then you have to go think about it for 6 months, and then start living it for another 3 years after that, and then you might understand it. So therefore, I don't even understand this stuff yet. I'm just trying to figure it out. Okay, so in the Fox News culture where an idea is supposed to just be able to be enunciated in 13 seconds while somebody's interrupting you, we have to, the problem is we have to communicate Thoreauvian self-sufficiency to those people. So you have to be able to explain it like, you still can't even do it on Fox, but that Fox News mentality, you have to basically show them, you have to come up with a couple of principles. We need to buy from, sell from each other, eliminate the middle hands, produce better products. That'll create more wealth. You have to, and you do this by setting up businesses with what you like the most, and where there's demand. You have to be able to somehow explain this to people in between, during commercials, between, their TV show or something. You see what I mean? So it has to be very, very simple. The idea in the Bible of the parables being very, very simple. So, everybody can understand humongous concepts in, three simple sentences. That's what we're going for here. So anyway, anti-monopolism has to be, one general, I don't know how it would work, but it has to be, you can't have something like 30 people, that's it. That's never going to work. Who's going to enforce it, blah, blah, blah. Okay? But you can enforce it if the philosophy of Thoreauvian self-sufficiency is such that businesses are kept small enough where everybody makes a ton of money, and the business is such that the owners, if there is just one owner, for example, the owners, let's say everybody's an owner, I don't know how it would work, but they're sweeping up at night, and they're running the books, and they've got the password into the bank account and so forth. They're all doing the same stuff. As soon as it goes away from that, then you've got differentiation, menial workers, and then of course you have Animal Farm scenarios start. Remember George Orwell's book Animal Farm? Animal Farm basically is our whole culture. We read that book and think, oh my gosh, Naomi Wolf says it's coming. No, it's been here. It's America, okay? The pigs are just simply corporation owners, whether it's mom and pop shop or the big one. And then everybody else, they're the ones armed with the money and more time off, and everybody else is doing the work, slaving away. Anyway, just think about it, read the book and think about it, and you'll see what I mean. Corporatism in America at every level is an animal farm. So now the point is how do you enforce this anti-monopolism? The only way it would be enforced is this: as soon as a company got big enough where differentiation of labor started. Okay, now, meaning, now a person's designated to clean the toilets, and I'm going to take more time off. Something like that happens. That's when it gets too big. That happens. All that would happen is the people who are, the company would split, because the person who all of a sudden is, in this extreme example, I can't think of a better way to put it, and off the cuff here, but the people who got the short end of the stick there, they would have all the skills. Okay. They've been there making the products and so forth. They just start an offshoot of the business. Okay, so if they want anti-monopolism, it's up to them. And it would be pretty easy. All they do is just go start making their products elsewhere and take their friends with them, split the company in half. And then everybody stays filthy rich. Okay? This is pure capitalism, the opposite of the way America is right now, which is pure corporatism. Just a couple people have money. Have capital. Truly own possessions. I mean, really maybe nobody owns land in America. Because, you can have it paid out. I mean, I know you all know this, but I mean, if you owe taxes, and if your land can be taken away, you don't own it. Okay, so Thoreauvian self-sufficiency does away with this stuff. I mean, you have to think about how everything comes together. The Jeffersonian attitude on guns and militia with the, self-governing little mini corporations, what everybody becomes, a self-governing business. You mix all this together, and there's no more place for any kind of government. It just simply can't do anything. Well, I mean, think about it. If everybody does all the things I've listed in this show so far, and then, Barack Obama or George W. Clown or somebody gets on TV and says, we've got to go save the people of Libya. And then you're thinking to yourself, oh yeah, didn't they say we had to save those people in Iraq and Pakistan and Afghanistan? It was all alive. So anyway, so they say we have to go save the people of Libya. I mean, and we're going to come out, and then nobody goes or nobody's going to sign up for the military anymore because you can make up so much more money. That's why people sign up for the military now, because you make so much money compared to, your McDonald's job. But nobody would anymore because everybody's getting filthy rich in Thoreauvian self-sufficiency. So what are they going to do? Say, we're going to force you to come now? They would have no way, unless they're going to start rounding up. You're trying to round. I mean, I don't want to go in. I'll just explain this for a second. This is off topic, but there would be some crazy extreme scenario that they would have to use to try to get people to go to war, and it wouldn't work. Okay, I mean, what are you going to do, round up a bunch of people and make them go to war? And then when they just got over to Libya, they're just not going to cooperate. Okay, because they don't want to be there anyways. People that are in wars now just think that they want to be there because that's where the money, they're doing it, they're mercenaries. They're doing it for money. So anyway, I think you get my point. So anyway, that's the only way at this moment I've been able to think about anti-monopolism. People would have to work on this more in the future. How is this concept to be sharpened? How can we sharpen the way Jeff put this? Not my concept. Whatever. How can we make this more, make this theoretical account seem more and more practical so it could be experimented with? So, I mean, this really, the world we live in, just take a step aside here for a second. I mean, this is really, really serious stuff. I mean, minimum wage jobs need to end. And this is the answer. This is the answer not just to defeating and so forth. This is the answer to everything. I mean, we've been taught, all of you have been taught, a concentration camp is where people are rounded up and thrown into these places and eventually shot or something. That's what a death camp is. That's what slavery is, blah, blah, blah. What if your public education never taught you that? It just taught you that a concentration camp is a place where people it's ordered to live, and the work they do is not of their choice, and they don't make enough money to live sufficiently and have the items they need, such as healthy food and pure water and whatever. Well, if that was the definition, because that is roughly what a concentration camp is, then people would start saying, well, hey, I see that all around me now. So we've been taught that, concentration camps are these things that happen far away in space and time. But are they really? Or is it really what the Thoreauvian self-sufficient world would end is the concentration camp lifestyle that a lot of us have gotten used to? I mean, Joe Sixpack you know, I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's what the six-pack is there for. So, so anyway, there's anti-monopolism for you right there. Now, okay, so moving along to some other notes here. Now, I don't know how this would all work. I mean, there would have to be mass agreements somehow. You know, could you go to Joe Sixpack and say, and just explain to him in a paragraph, show him, hey, you know, go find something that he does in his life. You know, you like beer, why don't you go make some beer or something? You know, and you could sell it and make money off of it, and eventually, you know, this is a way to get wealthier and have to work less. And you could instead do a job you like more than the job you have now. I mean, I don't know if this could that really work. I mean, find someone who really loves what they're doing. Take Ed Walker, for example, of Black Helicopter Radio. He loves doing radio, and well, I don't know how much he wants me to tell about his personal life, but he hopes someday that it'll pay the bills, whatever bills are left. If he, you know, like me, he's trying to become more and more off the grid. Onto a new grid. Off the grid is kind of a bad term. I mean, we want a new grid. I think most of you want to keep your technology. We just want it, you want to buy it from other sources. You want your grid to be Thoreauvian self-sufficient grid. So, but anyways, I forgot what I was going to say about Ed Walker. I'm thinking about too many things at once here. But, you know, I don't know if we could do this. If it would, somehow we'd have to, I mean, is it the case that if you told people and showed them they could get wealthier and do this? Oh, yeah, I was going to talk about Ed, how he likes doing radio. I mean, okay, yeah, so, yeah, I mean, you could take someone like Ed and say, you know, he's just doing radio because he likes it. Not making any money right now, but hoping that it'll turn into a Thoreauvian self-sufficient business. I think it will, but, you know, who knows? So it's easy, you know, to talk someone like that into just, I mean, say somebody talked him into it. Nobody did. He decided on his own. Well, I invited him on the network a year ago. But anyways, I mean, for someone like him, he'd just jump into it. But maybe there's a mass of people out there that just won't. They just are too stuck in the lazy mode. I mean, maybe forget them then. You know, it's got to be the case that everybody's out there has something they just really like to do. At least better than their McDonald's job or whatever they do during the day, or to make money, quote money, unquote. It's not even really money, and it's not even much. And it's all spent, paycheck to paycheck for most people anyways, huh? So, I don't know, it seems that, I'm just trying to figure this out how it could practically work. I mean, it seems like this could get started. I mean, I'm just doing it without even trying. Veronica Varun, Ed Walker, I know several people who've started farms. I think half the listeners of this radio show, whenever I hear from them, I find out they've got some farm or something they're doing. You know, Clayton with the soil cube. So it seems like this is a natural behavior. If we could just get a large movement of people doing it, you start growing medical marijuana. You know, move to a medical marijuana state and find out how much unfortunately you live in a scenario where you only can have 5 pot plants a household or something. Start growing it and selling it. You know, something. So it seems this is enormously practical, profitable, and so forth. So it's not just some, we'll take any solution, so we just this one, and it's totally impractical. No, it's not even like that. This is realistic. This is the one solution, and I think it's not some theoretical, well, it is theoretical, but not fantastically theoretical, where it's doesn't exist. So I want to talk a little bit more about the government issue. I don't know exactly how things would work as far as, you know, there are a whole bunch of services and products and items and so forth that government provides in this country, because we sort of live in this welfare state. Well, not sort of, it is a welfare state. I mean, if the government's building your road, that's essentially a welfare type of scenario, right? If the government sets up your library for you, that's another. I mean, it's the welfare sort of idea. So all of us are in this, and that's why your roads stink and your library has all the crappy books in it. So, but anyways, it would be a scenario where people would have to create their, as government faded away, which would happen gradually over decades or something. But people would have to set up their own, whatever they wanted. I mean, do you want parks with gardens? People would have to, I guess, get together and build them. Now, my understanding is community building is something people tend to like to do. I've got an undergrad degree in anthropology from U of New Mexico. I studied hunter-gatherers for 4 years, and this is something that struck me. The community gets together to work on something, or just trade goods or something. It was like the big event. I think we call it the potlatch sometimes out west, among the Indians and so forth. Or the potluck, people call it now, in corporatistic America, corporatized America. So I don't know people are on YouTube and so forth. They're going to try to pick apart every little thing. Oh, Jeff, how would this work? How would this work? How would this work? How do you have? Where do you get your police? Well, you don't need police, obviously, because you're the police, as I already stated. But I mean, I know people try to pick apart every little thing. Go ahead. And maybe that's good. I mean, I'm just trying to think this through. So I don't exactly know who would build the roads. Maybe nobody would build roads. I don't know. I mean, my wife and I are. I don't know how much personal information I should reveal, but we've been considering buying this 2-acre farm just outside of town, still in Ann Arbor, but just outside. And we've been there a couple times to look at the property, and very, very minimalistic. That's just our taste. You don't have to be a Thoreauvian self-sufficient and be minimalistic, but that's just our preference, definitely. And it's on a dirt road, and I don't know if you're like me. I'm a Buddhist, as you know, and so I'm naturally always kind of watching my feelings and so forth, introspective in a very productive way. As genuine Buddhism involves. So, I mean, I noticed when we turn on this dirt road, my whole psyche changes just by having the perception enter me of the dirt road. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's just because that's just me. I just like bucolic settings and blah, blah, blah. So, but, I mean, the point is that I don't know. Maybe I don't know how things would turn out. Maybe people would like dirt roads. Maybe they would build concrete roads, but they would build them much better than the government-maintained roads are. I don't know how it would happen. I mean, but people, that's one thing. I don't know what the deal is. Whenever you talk about this kind of stuff with people, if you minimize government or got rid of it or whatever, I mean, really, Thoreauvian self-sufficiency is anarchism. It's called political anarchism. There's absolutely no centralized control other than each individual person is a centralized control. So in other words, there's no centralized control. That's called pure political anarchism, or anarchistic corporatism, as I called it in my book. So it's a very positive kind of anarchism, not the, morons throwing bricks into windows or something, that kind of anarchism. So, whenever I talk about this, anything like this, who's going to build the roads? Is it that tough for people to get together and build a library and choose the books? Why does everything have to just be done for? I mean, are we so ruined as a people that we can't get together and decide what books there would be in our library or something? Maybe we wouldn't even have bookshelves anymore in our houses. We would just keep them in the neighborhood library. There'd be libraries all over the place, and maybe schools would be held there. Who knows what would happen? It's a lifestyle that you can't even fathom, and I bet you it's absolutely unbelievable how good it is. Okay, it would be intensely communal. if you wanted to, or you could hide it, as people do now, hide away in your house. But I mean, it would be more communal, and I take that as a good thing. Okay, it would be communal, but hyper individualistic. So the mixture of community and individualism, they're both sort of at their max in Thoreauvian self-sufficiency, community and individualism, and that's what we need. Okay, as soon as you take one of those away, then you've got problems. So, I mean, the animal farm scenario can't happen, like I've talked about. I mean, you worry about in an politically anarchistic place. Will there be roving bands of scoundrels that can emerge? That won't matter because of the weaponry things we discussed earlier. The animal farm concept ultimately can't emerge either. Not just because people will be, if your mindset is toward Thoreauvian self-sufficiency, you'll just simply ignore people that exercise economic prowess over others. Okay, that would be buyers would steer away from them because they would violate the Thoreauvian self-sufficient principle. And that somehow that would have to work. What if they had a better product? I don't know how that would work. Maybe people would just have to copy their product then, try to make, so then everybody's making, there's more than one person making the same product. I don't know how it would work. But that somehow would have to happen. But in the extreme case where a highly, where some small group gained a lot of power over the people, Thoreauvian self-sufficiency doesn't allow an animal farm scenario where they try to take over the behavior of others. It wouldn't be allowed because of the weaponry. If it went that far, because the weaponry discussion I had talked about a little bit earlier. And also, one more thing about government. There's 2 minutes left. Government in itself is a monopoly. The definition of government is monopolistic, which is a big problem. It therefore really, by principle, doesn't fit into Thoreauvian self-sufficiency. Because government is, the idea of governance is power over another. Okay, so if you have power over many, that's monopolistic. The Thoreauvian self-sufficient idea is everybody has power over their self only. Okay, that's anti-monopolistic government. It's Thoreauvian self-sufficient government. So, again, the point is you don't try to get rid of government. It just fades away because you've changed your economic way of life. But really, the whole concept of government is anti-Thoreauvian and is monopolistic. So, and people have a tough time with that. They just can't. They can't get around the idea of, we have to have government, blah blah blah. But as I discussed earlier in the show, that's not really. There's been examples where that's not hasn't been the case, and it's not an empirical view to hold that we have to have government. Indians, factory workers, in a sense, Amish people are a little bit like this. Not perfect examples in any case of Thoreauvian self-sufficiency, but we're just too corporatized. We're thinking that there's only one way to live, perfect way. So.